See. Okay, I think you can hear me now. Can I share my screen, David?
Absolutely. Go ahead and share your screen. Audio is coming in
Excellent.
perfect.
Okay, good. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I really appreciate all the kind comments. Thanks for the great intro, David. Wow, my father would believe it. My mother would love it. But folks, I want to talk to you about responding to this current crisis, which is unprecedented in economic history. As you know, this is not a Great Depression or a recession. This is what I call the Great Suppression. We did this to ourselves, but either way, we have to come out of it. And I know many small businesses face an existential threat, but I'm here to tell you there are some incredible bright spots in the economy right now. There are companies that are growing, and I think this is because they've changed their business model. And I want to talk to you today about changing your business model. Now, a lot of times this is equated to trying to fix an airplane while it's flying. And indeed, changing a business model is really hard. If you've gone from hourly billing to value pricing, that's a change in business model. It's not just a change in pricing. But right now, the airplane more or less is on the ground. I know that's not completely true for accountants because you're still doing a lot of work. In fact, we're needed now more than ever. But you have some time to innovate here, and we're seeing a ton of innovation come out. And I want to share with you just in the short time I have. But let me back up and give you a brief overview. If you think about hourly billing, which the profession adopted in the 60s, 70s, it basically prices the inputs of hours, efforts, activities. Then we kind of moved to fixed fee. When I started the profession in 1984, we were already on fixed fees for certain types of services, such as audits when I started in the Big 8 firm. Those fixed fees, however, were determined by estimating the amount of hours. So they didn't really advance the business model. Then we moved into value pricing 1.0, something I've been talking about since 1994 and instituted my own CPA practice in 1989. So I've been on this crusade for coming up on 30 years. And now I'm telling you right now, there's a hard economic trend out there, and it's what I'm just calling facetiously value pricing 2.0, and that is the subscription business model. The difference between 1.0 and 2.0 is value pricing 1.0 prices the customer because value is subjective for all the reasons I've laid out in the 7 books I've written about this. But value pricing 2.0, the subscription business model, is a different business model. And when a business model changes, 2 things change. 1, the pricing strategy changes. 2, what is measured gets changed. And I'm going to share with you both of those. The thing in value pricing 2.0 that changes on the pricing side is we're pricing the relationship and the portfolio. Now, I'm going to explain those two, because you're probably thinking, well, you're playing with semantics, Ron. What's the difference between pricing the customer and pricing the relationship? I will tell you from an behavioral economic perspective, there's a big difference. And I'll share with you why. So let's talk about value pricing 2.0, what we're seeing out there right now in the economy. The subscription e-commerce market has grown by more than 350% for the past 7.5 years. It's outperforming the S&P 500 by a factor of 5. And in some years, that actually grew 100% year over year. So this trend is out there. Now, in 5 years, I don't know if you won't own anything, you'll subscribe to everything. I'm not willing to go that far. I will say this, in 5 years, you will have the option of subscribing to a lot of different things, and every business is going to have to deal with that. So this is a model that you can ignore, but it's not going to ignore you. So let me show you what's going on right now in the midst of this COVID crisis. Zora, which is founded by Teen Zoe, which is a subscription software company that runs the back end accounting and all that for subscription businesses. It's based here in San Francisco, and it's a $11 billion company, very successful. So you can imagine Teen Zoe is a chief evangelist for the subscription business model. They wanted to see how their customers that use their product were being impacted. So they looked at over 700 customers, and they analyzed growth from February 2019 to February 2020. And then they isolated March, because that's when the private sector started to self-isolate, like the NBA shut down, Broadway went dark. And also a lot of the governments put the shelter in place and orders in. Here's what they found over those 700 plus companies. 53% have not seen a significant impact to subscriber acquisition rates. In other words, they're growing at the same trajectory in March that they were the prior February to February. These are companies like, you know, a lot of different subscription companies you can probably think of. Prime is an example, New York Times, things like that. 22% of the companies surveyed had subscription growth rates that accelerated. Things like The Atlantic. The Atlantic put the COVID coverage of its journalism outside of the paywall. That attracted people to The Atlantic. Let them poke around. They gained 36,000 new subscribers in the month of March. Financial Times did the same thing, picked up 600% subscribers. 12.8% of these companies are slowing in their growth rate, but they're still growing. 11.4% of the companies, their churn rate, in other words, customers who dropped out, is outpacing the acquisition rate. So those companies are going down. But the point is, they're not going down to zero. If you think about a typical product or service business, it starts at zero every day. Like Mike said, you have to sell, sell, sell. This is not true with a subscription model. You've got built-in monthly recurring revenue. You've got built-in annual recurring revenue, lifetime customer value. It's a different model. One of the great stories out of this is Fender. If Fender CEO and founder figured out a long time ago that trying to get people to buy, somebody who buys a guitar for the first time is very, very excited, right? But then if they don't learn how to play it effectively, they'll put the guitar in the closet, maybe sell it on eBay. They'll never buy another one. He started Fender Play years ago. Fender Play is a platform of videos that teaches you how to play a guitar. As soon as COVID hit, he opened up Fender Play to anybody who wanted it for free. And he said, we're going to do this for the first 100,000 people. That sold out. I mean, that people just crashed the website signing up for that free offer. He said, then we're going to up it to 500,000. And then that filled up, and he opened up to 1 million. That's about to fill up. Think about this. He's established relationships with 1 million people that Fender didn't have in the last 6 weeks. So this model, when I say double down on relationships, this model puts the relationship at the center of the business. The other models don't. Hourly billing certainly doesn't. And even value pricing, my beloved value pricing 1.0, doesn't necessarily put the relationship at the center. It still is focused on the services and the outputs and possibly the scope of work. The subscription model is different. So let me show you how, and let me show you the models I think most apply to professional firms. The first company I want to introduce you is Hassle-Free Homes. For about $275, $300 a month, you subscribe to this company, which is a franchise business, and they will come in to your house once, I think, a week or every 2 weeks. I'm not sure the frequency. And they'll take care of everything on your to-do list, all that crap on your to-do list that you have to spend your weekends doing. Change the batteries in the smoke alarm, fix the screens on the window, with the filters out of the air conditioner, all of that stuff. They do it all. But then if you want something bigger done, if you want a kitchen remodeled, if you want a bathroom remodeled, you can engage them, and that's a non-covered service. So they'll set up a separate price for that. And that's where they get 50% of their revenue. The other model that I want to share with you is right now in 5 places, you can subscribe to Porsche. And for $2,000 or $3,000 a month, you have available certain models, and you can drive them as much as you want. There's no mileage restriction. And Porsche pays for everything except gas and tolls. So they pay for repairs. They pay for your insurance. That's so they can control it, make sure you're not a DUI driver and all of that. And you can switch out those cars as much as you want. There is no limit, just like there's no limit on miles. So I can say, hey, I've got guests coming in this weekend. They want to go wine tasting. I want an SUV. They'll white glove out an SUV and white glove away my convertible. And then 3 days later, when my guests are gone, they'll white glove back out the convertible or some other model that I'm eligible to drive, and they'll take away the other one. That's phenomenal. But and people say, well, what's the difference between a lease, buying a car, and this? This is not tied to a car. You're not buying a car. You're subscribing to Porsche, the company. You have a direct relationship. In fact, it's so direct, it's called the Passport program. And you can see that they call their customers citizens. I'm not going to sit here and read, but read that customer review off their website. How many professional firms can boast reviews like this? I mean, this is a phenomenal relationship that they have. And the second model I want to share with you. So this is a simplifier model. Make your customer's life simple. The second model that I want to share with you, where to go? Oh, geez. I lost my... The second model I want to share with you is the peace of mind model. The model that I think works for professional firms with the subscription is the concierge medicine. Concierge medical practices started in 1996. The Seattle Sonics doctors started it. And they have grown rapidly. In fact, the demand for these practices and these types of general practitioner doctors far outstrip its supply. And these doctors basically say to their patients, for some monthly amount, and it can be from anywhere from $250 a month, I've seen them up to literally like $2,000, $3,000 a month to cover a family of four. It depends on your strategy, who you're marketing to. You know, if you're marketing to Fortune 500 CEOs that don't have any time, who travel a lot, they're probably paying $40,000 a year for their concierge doctor. But the thing is, the concierge doctor basically says to you, you're covered for anything that you need medically that we are capable of doing under our roof. And what they are capable of doing under their roof is constantly expanding, just like Netflix is constantly expanding content. Amazon Prime is constantly throwing new benefits at their Prime members, right? Audible books and magazine subscriptions and streaming music. And notice that they're not changing the price of Amazon Prime every time they throw a new innovation at us. Same thing here. These medical practices are adding MRI, diagnostics, pharmacies. Some of them actually fulfill subscriptions. They're doing 23andMe testing and the analysis that goes with it. They're bringing in dietitians. In other words, they're there to keep you healthy. They just don't want to see you when you're sick. They want to see you when you're healthy. Well, the concierge doctors, their patients have less ER visits. They have less chronic illnesses. They take less drugs, which is one of the reasons the pharmaceutical companies don't like them. Here's the point. The concierge doctor is there to monitor and make sure that you maintain physical and medical health. What are accountants here for? We're here to make sure our customers achieve their financial dreams and stay financially healthy. We're no different than a concierge doctor. This changes the model completely because, and this is just a set of bullet points I pulled from a concierge practice here in the Bay Area. But look at those first 6 bullet points, folks. Isn't this the type of relationship that we want? Not just with a doctor, but with an accountant? Isn't this why you and I became financial professionals? I didn't do it to log hours. I didn't do it to do project management. I did it to help people. This is why I became a CPA, not to be efficient, not to have the best process in the world. I did it to have an impact on people. You can't be efficient with people. You have to be effective with people. We can be efficient with software and all that. That's all great. But all that does is free you up to make sure that you're more effective with people. So if we look at these different concierge practices, notice that their panel of patients is much reduced depending on which type of model they pick. They might only have 100 to 200 patients. If they're at the premium level, they may have 800 to 1,200. Compare that to a GP right now in the typical fee-for-service model. They have a panel of patients anywhere from 3,500 to 4,000 patients, which is why we spend about 7 minutes or 10 minutes with our doctor, and 60% of that time is them typing into their screen. This reduces the number of patients, so you have the capacity to see your customers, not just when they're sick, but when they're well, to keep them well. You can invest more time in them. You can provide more services. Innovation is baked in. It's a completely different model, but it does require lower prices and it does probably require a 3 to 5 times price point greater than your current price. So I know I'm up against it here, but I just wanted to share with you one other thing. This is C3 Advisory, a firm up in New York who put together a COVID-19 support package, and you can see he offered 3 choices. And this is basically, hey, we'll take you through this COVID crisis, whatever it is, because again, we're not pricing the services. We're not pricing even the customer. We're pricing the portfolio. So even the income statement and the metrics that you can see here on this slide, you have to learn some new acronyms with this model. But let me just show you the income statement, and then I'll stop. This income statement is completely different than the traditional income statement. There's no room in here for hourly rate realizations or effective hourly rates. That's not the model anymore. We got to move away from that scope of work, and we got to start thinking what's covered and what's uncovered. And the subscription economy is, I think this is where the future of the profession's headed. I know it scares the heck out of people, but I'm telling you, we're already there. And it's just a matter of who are going to be the early adapters in this profession. So with that, I know, David, I'm up against time. So I'll just leave you with my contact page. This is where you can get a hold of me. I'm happy to continue this discussion. But thanks for having me, David. And thanks everybody for being here. I really appreciate it.